Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen demands my upgraded seats for free. She really ends up regretting it. After that, am I the jerk for telling my husband that I was disappointed in the gift he bought for my son's 16th birthday? And after that, my ex-wife is trying to break our daughter and her boyfriend up so that she can start dating the boyfriend's dad. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to steal someone else's seats. But I want to sit in first class. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands my upgraded seats for free. She really ends up regretting it. This happened a few years ago, before lockdown, when flying overseas from the US to Europe. My girlfriend and I were taking a trip to visit a few places in Europe for a vacation. This was her first time overseas and the first time she had ever flown on a long-haul flight of more than 3 or 4 hours. In the lead up to the trip, we decided to upgrade our seats from economy to whatever the premium economy variant was for the airline. Seeing as this was my girlfriend's first time on a long flight, I figured it was worth the upgrade for the extra room and perks. In total, we paid around $150 total for both of us to upgrade. We boarded the flight and we got settled in our seats, which were in the last row of the premium economy section on the right side of the plane. There was no noticeable division or indicators between sections other than a small plaque above our row said premium economy or whatever. My girlfriend took the window seat and I sat in the aisle. Entitled Mom and her son, who was around 9 to 10 years old, then board and are seated several rows behind us, but in the middle row of the aircraft, 2-4-2 seating. Her son has his nose buried in his switch, as you'd expect a kid of his age to do. They barely get to their seats when Entitled Mom comes up to our row and stares at us with no greeting. She's standing in the aisle as other passengers are trying to get around her to get to their seats. Entitled Mom: "Can you swap seats with my son and I? He likes having a window seat and we don't have one." My girlfriend and I look back at where her son is sitting and then at each other. I try to politely decline her request. Me: "Unfortunately, no ma'am. We paid to upgrade to these seats, so we'd like to keep our assigned seats for this flight." Entitled Mom keeps staring at us for a couple seconds. More people are awkwardly trying to shuffle around her as she stands there. Entitled Mom: "My son is not a great flyer. He does better when he can sit next to the window." Me: "Sorry, but like I said, we paid more money to sit here in premium economy. We're in the last row, so perhaps there's someone else in the rows behind us who would be willing to swap seats." At this point, a flight attendant noticed that Entitled Mom is holding up the boarding line and comes over to tell Entitled Mom to take her seat. She goes back to her row, and my girlfriend and I think that this is the end of that exchange and go back to getting settled. After boarding completes, Entitled Mom and her son immediately stand up and walk to our row, standing right in front of us with all of their stuff in hand. The kid still has his face buried in a switch. Entitled Mom: "Can we swap seats now?" Me: "Ma'am, I already said that we aren't willing to swap seats. As I've said, we paid more so that we can sit here, so we'd like to keep these seats." Awkward infinite pause. Karen: "That's really just selfish of you. My son isn't the best flyer and likes to have a window to look out of. It's not that big of a deal for you to take our seats so he can have a window." At this point, I should mention this was an overnight flight, so there isn't going to be anything to look at except darkness for a majority of the flight. Me: "I'm not going to argue with you, ma'am. I don't think it's selfish to want to sit in the seats I paid for. I'm sorry you don't have a window seat for your son, but that doesn't mean you're entitled to our seats that we paid an upgrade fee for." Entitled Mom continues to stand there silently for a few seconds, as if we'd give in eventually and move if she didn't leave. "I'm guessing you don't have kids if you're acting like this." Me: "Ma'am, I don't know what to say to you at this point. If it was that big of a deal for your son to get a window seat, then you should have done so in advance. Did you try asking anyone else if they were willing to swap seats?" "Well, no one else back there is traveling together, so they aren't going to want to swap." I turn around and see an older couple in the row behind us, a pair of coworkers in another row that were watching a video on one of their phones while laughing, and a middle-aged woman sitting alone in the aisle seat with the window vacant. Entitled Mom then starts to open up the overhead bins to start putting her stuff in there. Me: "Ma'am, we are not swapping seats with you. I think you're just trying to guilt us into giving up our seats so you can sit in premium economy." If a window seat was really that important, you would have moved on and asked other people behind us once we told you we weren't willing to move. You just want us to give you a free upgrade. Entitled mom becomes furious at this point and continues to call us selfish and how what I said wasn't true. She then starts to bend over and grab my stuff like she's going to evict us from the row. Me, lady, please don't touch any of my stuff and leave us alone. Thankfully, the flight attendant comes up to ask what the problem is. Entitled mom tries to go on a rant that we were denying her kid a window seat and were being selfish and rude to her and her son. After she was done ranting, I explained the actual situation to the flight attendant. Flight attendant, ma'am, they aren't obligated to swap seats with you. They said no, you need to take your seats now. Please go back to your row. Flight attendant escorted them back to their seats as entitled mom huffed and puffed. She then spent the rest of the flight glaring at us from the aisle seat. When the plane finally landed, she rushed to the front of the aircraft ahead of everyone and gave me a solid bump as she passed by me with her bag. Definitely wasn't an accident. Her kid was fine for the whole flight too. Anytime we saw him, he was either asleep or was heads down playing his Switch. I think the only way to deal with people like that is to not argue. They ask for something, just say no. Don't give a reason. Logic won't work with idiots anyway. If they start on about how their kid needs this or that, I just say, this may come as a shock to you, but I don't give a hoot about your kid. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I was disappointed in the gift he had for my son's 16th birthday? Background. I've been married to my husband, Jack, for 3 years. I have a 16-year-old son from my previous marriage, and Jack has an 18-year-old son from his previous marriage as well. My stepson and my son aren't close, and they only see each other while they visit. But everyone is happy with these arrangements, and there are rarely any issues. My stepson's 18th birthday was a couple of months ago. I wasn't at the party since his mom hosted, but Jack told me he bought him a car because he's been needing it since he has a disability and will be going to college. I saw the pictures. The car looked nice. Now, my son's 16th birthday took place this past week. My son and I were both excited for the gift Jack said he'd bring, and I hinted to my son that it would most likely be a car, just like the one his stepbrother got recently. It turned out we were wrong, because at the party, Jack's gift for my son was actually a gaming console. My son got so upset that he went to his room and shut the door mid-party. Everyone noticed something was wrong and left shortly. Jack looked confused this entire time and asked what the deal was. I asked if he really didn't know, and he just stared. I told him that my son was expecting something like a car as a gift. Jack asked why, and I told him because my stepson got one for his 18th birthday recently. I bluntly told him that my son was rightfully disappointed, and so was I in the gift, and really thought it was unfair, especially since my son told his friends he was getting a car from his stepdad. Jack argued about the difference in circumstances, saying his son needs the car to drive to college, while my son doesn't need it, and besides, he doesn't have a disability like his stepbrother and can walk or commute. Also said I shouldn't have assumed it would be a car, and I messed up by hinting this to my son. I couldn't help but notice the difference in treatment. I let him know that no matter how he tries to explain his reasons, my son will always feel like he's less than his stepbrother in a way, and what happened now will make it worse. Even between the stepbrother, not just him and my son. Jack called me unbelievable and said that I should feel ashamed and then rushed out. He's expecting me to get involved and ease things between him and my son, but I decided to give my son time to process this. Am I the jerk for what I said? You're the jerk. Why don't you and the child's father buy a car for your son? Your husband is not obligated to buy his stepson a vehicle. Your stepson did not get a car at 16, he got one at 18. To expect your son's stepfather to buy a car for him when the kid is 2 years younger would make you the jerk too. I feel sorry for your husband. He married someone who only wants him for his money. Your son expected a car because of you. Why in the world would you hint at that and then put that expectation in his head? Your husband is not responsible for buying your son a car. You and his father are responsible for buying your son a car. You're the jerk, and you set your husband up to fail and potentially ruin their relationship. Not to mention that a game console is a really generous gift, and Jack showed no gratitude. Of course you're the jerk. Jack bought his son a car, and then you expected him to buy your son a car without ever even talking to him about it? And just telling your son that he would. Your son is your responsibility, and 18 is different than 16. College is different than high school. He didn't even get his own son a car at 16. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Hope this guy got a prenup. Yowza. My ex-wife is trying to break our daughter and her boyfriend up so that she can start dating the boyfriend's dad. Me, 45 male, and my ex, 35 female, have a daughter named Alana who's 16. Alana has been dating Eric, who's 18, for about 8 months now. Things have been going well for them. My ex is active in Alana's school community and recently met Eric's dad, who's 44 male, at a recent school function. From what I understand, they hit it off and were moving in the direction of seeing each other. That is, until Eric's dad found out that my ex is the mother of his son's girlfriend. He thought things would be weird and awkward if they started dating, so he made it clear to my ex that they were no longer a possibility and why. My ex did not take it well. According to what Alana told me later, her mom came home drunk one night and started mumbling at her about how she was a burden who always ruined her happiness. The next day, ex either didn't remember or pretended not to remember and thanked Alana for taking care of her when she was drunk. But it didn't take long before my ex started telling Alana how she didn't think Eric was right for her. They've got a 2-year age gap and will be separated for at least that long when he went to college, and that it would be better to break it off now. Alana was upset and they got into a fight, bad enough that she came to spend the night at my place. I told her that her mother was full of it, and as long as the guy's not treating her wrong, it's none of her mother's business who she dates. Things calmed down for a bit before suddenly escalating. Instead of simply telling my daughter it would be best to break up with Eric, ex started actively trying to sabotage the relationship. Examples include telling Alana she saw Eric with another girl, talking up and trying to introduce Alana to one of her friend's kids, and even stealing Alana's phone so that she could use it to text Eric that they were done. After resolving the misunderstanding with Eric, Alana had an even bigger fight with her mother before finally getting the reason why she was doing this. She wanted to get together with Eric's dad, but he wouldn't be with her because the kids were dating. Alana lost it, called her mom a crazy jerk, and came back over to live with me. When I got the full story, I was livid. I called my ex to ask her what she thought she was doing. She said her love life wasn't any of my business. I told her I don't care about her love life. I care about our daughter. Then I asked her why, if Eric's dad wouldn't be with her because of the kids' relationship, would she think he would be okay with her breaking the kids up? She called me jealous and said he wouldn't know if I didn't tell him. I called her a crazy jerk, just like Alana did, and hung up. Now, not only am I getting texts from her calling me horrible, but also her sister and her friends, who I assume don't have the true story, calling me the same. I try to ignore them, but it did get me thinking about whether I went too far when I lost my temper. I'm not a 16-year-old like Alana who can't filter their thoughts from their mouth. Am I the jerk? Edit. I don't really have enough time to just go through this and respond to individual comments. There are a lot more than I expected, so I just thought I'd address something that I see keep popping up here. Unlike some of you are assuming, I did not make my ex crazy or emotionally stunted or some nonsense, because we met at a bar that carded at the door. I assumed she was older than 21, and because neither of us were looking for something too serious, we didn't get too personal. We just hooked up. I didn't find out how old she really was until after she was pregnant. We decided to try to seriously get together for the baby and got married. It didn't work out, and we divorced after about 4 years. Now, I'm fine if you judge me based on that info that actually exists, but please don't go making up some crazy stories about how I'm some kind of a bad person without any proper context. Not the jerk in this case. Alana needs to tell Eric everything and ask that he pass it along to the dad to put an end to this Lifetime movie. Not the jerk. That's crazy behavior, but why did you have a kid with a 19-year-old when you were 29? Sounds like you both are red flags. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know. That Karen sounds bonkers. Keep all the accidental tickets? Sure thing. So I work in a food-to-go department in a semi-large grocery shop. Up until a couple of years ago, it was owned and run by a real jerk of a man. Let's call him Boris. He was picky, arrogant, rude, etc. He was only in for a couple of hours a day, but would then be monitoring the CCTV and calling in every 5 minutes to tell someone to do something. And even worse, a couple of the managers would brown nose very hard. They'd side with him, say we were sneaky in our own department and probably were stealing. Anyway, in my department, we would serve people their food and they would put it into their cart and have to pay for it along with all the rest of their groceries at the checkouts. We didn't handle money. We would just use a computer that would tally up their items and produce a barcode that we could stick on their food. Now, the way the computer worked was anything we typed in, even if we canceled it out, would still be transmitted to the checkout system, so the shop could record what and how much of each thing is selling. This meant, though, that items people never actually bought were still being transmitted and recorded as sold, but no transaction or money ever followed. For example, someone comes to Food to Go, orders several different items, and I tally it all up, only for the customer to change their mind and not want the food anymore. Price put them off, or any other customer is always right BS. Or sometimes customers just wanted to know how much a certain combination of food would cost, so we'd type it all in regardless of if they go through with it. This meant that Boris thought either the customers were shoplifting food or we, the staff, were stealing. I don't understand that logic, but I digress. To tackle this issue, we were told to start recording every single time items were input to the system, but no food was actually making its way to the checkout. Every time someone wanted to know the potential total, we'd print a ticket. Every time we mistyped or pressed the wrong button, or a customer changed their mind, or they wanted to add on more or remove something, we printed that ticket. By the end of the day, there would be dozens, if not hundreds of tickets being recorded. Every day, we brought a page covered front to back in stickers to the office for the manager to go through. Their heart sank every time. They had to painstakingly go through the sales and cross-reference with the codes of the tickets to make sure there was no stolen goods. This was an added job that was not quick, on top of an already huge to-do list the managers had there. Sometimes several days or a week's worth would collect before they got to it. A few months in, and this new process was abandoned. I don't know how they got around it, but another 6 months later, and Boris sold the shop. Am I the jerk turning away a woman knocking at my door in the middle of the night looking for help? I fully admit that I don't really think I did anything wrong, and this is ridiculous to me, but my partner is angry and thinks I'm the jerk. Maybe I am. Around 1:30 a.m. today, a woman who neither me or my partner have ever seen before came knocking at our door. I admit she was acting upset. She said that she was looking for her boyfriend. It's snowing and cold outside in the middle of the night. My hackles pretty much instantly rose. I've heard stories of people knocking on doors and faking distress, looking for houses to rob. My partner, on the other hand, is ready and willing to let her in and try to help. Help with what? Her boyfriend is not here. He has never been here. I tell her not so nicely that he's not here, that I know what she's doing, and that she needs to get off my property now. Now we're up. It's almost 3 a.m. and still arguing on and off about me being a jerk to some poor innocent woman who's just worried about her boyfriend. I don't understand what we could have done. Whoever this dude is, he certainly hasn't been at our place. If she's cold and upset, maybe she should go home and file a missing persons report on her own phone at her own house. My partner argues that maybe she might have been homeless. Her boyfriend may have mental problems that are weighing on her, so she can't do that. And all of that is a true possibility. I spoke harshly because I don't believe her at all, and that if anything else even mildly suspicious happened after that door closed, I would be willing to call the cops. I did not verbally threaten to call the cops, nor did I actually do it. I think my partner is naive. My partner thinks I'm heartless. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Am I the jerk? Edit. They spoke at the door for at least 3 minutes before I interjected. She asked multiple times to come inside and not once for someone to call the cops to help her find her boyfriend. I'm personally reluctant to call the cops in any situation because of possible escalation. My partner outright did not want me to do so because he was worried it might get the woman in trouble. No cops for anybody, even if I regret that part now, if only because it might have saved one of my neighbors from the scheme. Edit 2. I called the non-emergency line to report it this morning, and I have regrets. Why the heck do the police need to know my full name, including middle and date of birth, to tell them about some suspicious jerk? Oh well. Not the jerk. As much as I would want to help out, I wouldn't do this either. That's sketchy, and it's frankly not your problem. You don't even know the person very well, which is also a red flag. Better safe than sorry. At 1:30 a.m., that woman was looking for her boyfriend, and she's looking for him by knocking on strangers' doors? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't searching for anyone involve asking your friends and family members? Asking work colleagues or college or school classmates? Reporting to the police? What exactly will she or anyone else find at a stranger's house? Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their partner? Please let us know. The reason the cops ask for your personal info is for their records. Those records, including your phone call to them, are accessible to the public, so always keep that in mind when you give them any information. You can also tell them you'd like to remain anonymous. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that he needs to come straight home after work to help with the kids? I'm 35, female, and my husband, who's 38, gets off of work at 8 p.m. It takes about 15 minutes to get home. Every single night, he gets home between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. I've noticed that he goes to the grocery store almost every night, and a lot of times it's for things like lotion or dog food that we really don't need because we will already have dog food at home. He also says that he likes to decompress in his car, listening to music and playing a game on his phone for like 10 or 15 minutes. We have 3 kids. One of them is an infant, and I could really use his help at home. Around this time, I'm trying to get the baby to bed, trying to get the older ones cleaned up and finish their homework. And when he comes home, this close to 9, he barely gets to see the kids, and he doesn't eat dinner with any of us because we've already eaten. I've offered a compromise, asking him if he could just do the decompression like a couple of nights a week, or if he could come straight home and decompress after the kids are asleep like I have to. He told me that if he comes straight home, that he's going to need 30 to 60 minutes of decompression time, and then he's going to go to bed, basically saying that he will not spend any time with me. He's telling me that I can't compromise because I want him to come straight home, and that I'm telling him that he's a bad parent and a bad husband because he's choosing to not spend this time with his family. He also likes to take 1 or 2 hours every single day off so that he can drive around and listen to music and play a video game on his phone. I understand wanting time to yourself, but every single day? Especially when it's making your wife's life more stressful? Am I the jerk with my request? He told me that his therapist said that individuals need time to themselves, but I think that this amount of time is selfish and it's making things more stressful for me. Update. He says if he decompresses after they go to bed, that he needs to get back in the car and go back out to drive around. I asked point blank if he was cheating or drinking, and he accused me of only wanting to be with him for financial stability. I also worked until 5 months ago and said he wants a divorce. Also found out he often closes 10 to 20 minutes early, but he never gets home any earlier. Not the jerk. He can't tell you that you're unwilling to compromise when you asked him to please don't do this every single day. Yes, we all need me time, but he seems to only care about him, not you or his family. What does your therapist say about that? OP. I haven't spoken to my therapist about it yet. That's Monday. Not the jerk. I would be on his side if he was literally just taking 15 minutes a day, was fully engaged with the family while home, and made sure you got free time too. But coming home late, plus driving around randomly up to 2 hours a day, that is being a bad parent and a bad husband. OP. It's 1 to 2 hours driving around on his own on his days off, and then every day after work getting home between 8:30 and 8:45 when he gets off between 7:50 and 8 o'clock. I've even asked him if he can decompress after the kids go to sleep like I do because this is a very stressful situation. Tell him that if he wants 1 to 2 hours of decompression time each day, then you also deserve the same amount of time. And so the compromise is working out a schedule so you each get the same amount of alone time. Not the jerk at all. He's taking 1 to 2 hours a day to drive around and an extra 30 minutes or longer to come home each night. You're doing a full-time job taking care of the kids. He's working a full-time job, which means that the time he is off work needs to be split up so you each get a break. Not the jerk. He obviously doesn't care for spending time with his wife or kids. Are you sure he's only playing games or listening to music in the car? Either way, it's really crappy of him and he's not prioritizing his family at all. Just bringing home a paycheck isn't enough to be considered a good father and husband. Everyone sucks here. You both suck somewhat. You for completely disregarding what he and his therapist both see as important time for him to take, and him for not being very willing to find some way to compromise towards your needs also. If he gets off at 8 p.m., can't he do more of the childcare early in the day so you could use that time for yourself? His work schedule kind of sucks for the nighttime routine, but if that's what the job is, then you kind of have to accept that he won't be home for dinner time or whatever. You're the jerk. You sound like a gem to be around. Seems like you refuse to take some time off yourself and expect him to sacrifice his time as well. OP. I'm just asking him not to do it every single day, and I do take time off. It's just very periodic due to his work schedule and all of his time to himself. So you're tripping over what, 4.5 hours a week? You're being really petty, and seeing your responses, I can see why he doesn't want a break. If I was him, I wouldn't want to be near you either. OP. 30 minutes, 5 times a week. Plus, let's say about an hour and a half on each day off. So that's about 2.5 hours plus 3 hours. So about 5.5 hours total. And it's not about the time away. It was me really asking him if he could come straight home, because the time that he takes away is the most stressful part of the day for me. I asked him if he could please do it another time. So first it was the amount of time, and now it's when he takes the breathers? My guy could be there 24/7 and you would still find something to complain about. OP, it doesn't sound like you read the initial post. I said in the initial post that I asked if he could either take his decompression a couple nights a week or if he could come home and help and then decompress afterwards. I did read it, and it came off as controlling. Y'all need couples therapy. You need to realize how hard being a stay-at-home parent is. He is intentionally decompressing during one of the most hectic times of the day and is holding her hostage about it. There is absolutely no reason he can't come home, help with the kids, then sit on his own with a beer for 15 minutes, then still relax with his wife and watch a show. There's nothing controlling about OP's request. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. I might get downvoted for this, but I don't know. I kind of feel bad for this guy. Am I the jerk for not wanting to invite my daughter to my wedding? When I, 36 male, was 19, I was hooking up with Sarah, 36, and we got pregnant with Chloe, who's now 16, female. Me and Sarah weren't in a good spot, but we went ahead with the pregnancy. But our problems got worse. We fought constantly and weren't close with each other. I was the only one working and felt like I was being used. There was a lot of resentment, and I ended up cheating when Chloe was 2. It wasn't right at all. I should have just left. I was 21 and immature. We got split custody, and ever since, it's been brutal with Sarah. She undermines me and won't consult me on decisions. Doesn't stop her friends or family from crap-talking me to Chloe. When Chloe was 11, she found out I cheated on her mom and has been a nightmare since. She would lock herself in her room and give me the silent treatment. She would basically only speak to me to ask when could she go back to her mom. This started at age 11 and went on for 4 years. Chloe kept saying horrible things to me. She banned me from attending her life events. The final straw was when I started dating again, and she messaged a girl that I posted a picture with, saying how I'm a cheater and a jerk. After that, I was done. I texted Sarah congratulating her on her win. Our daughter hates me and doesn't respect me, how I'm just done with it. I'm not taking Chloe anymore because I'm tired of being treated like crap. And if Chloe hates me, then I don't think it's best she be around me anymore. I said I'd still pay till she's 18, but I'm done being a punching bag. That was 2.5 years ago, and I haven't spoken to Chloe since. I'll send her a birthday card, but that's about it. Well, about 2 years ago, I met Kristen, 29, female, and she's amazing. We are set to get married this summer. When forming the guest list, she asked about my daughter. She's aware of the situation. I told her that we don't have a relationship, so I don't see the need to invite her. Also, it's a special day for us, and I don't know what my daughter is capable of anymore due to Sarah. I don't want her ruining anything or causing a scene. I thought that the matter was settled. I get a call from Sarah, and it's her screaming at me, saying Chloe was upset that she found out through Facebook that I was engaged. I told Sarah that the relationship between us is her fault, and that she shouldn't be surprised. Chloe got on the phone and started yelling at me, saying I never support her anymore. I said she banned me from her events, called me a jerk every day for 3 years, so she shouldn't be shocked that I don't want to be talked to like that, and that I do support her. I pay child support, I pay for her car, and I pay the lion's share of her private schooling. So she should watch what she says before implying that I don't support her. The conversation started to deteriorate, so I simply said, Chloe, I can't trust that you won't do something, and this is a special day for me. So if you want to reconnect, then maybe another time and place. My fiance is supportive, but I kind of feel like a jerk. Am I the jerk? Everyone sucks here. You're a jerk for a lot of reasons. You already know this to some degree, but I can't sympathize with anyone that completely cuts their kid out of their life like that, regardless of the reason. You made no mention of getting her into therapy when she was younger to help her navigate this, or trying to get more custody due to the parental alienation that was occurring. What did you do to help your kid who was, and is, living in a toxic environment like that? Your ex is a jerk for obvious reasons. I'm not going to go so far as to call your daughter, who was only 11 at the time, a jerk, but she sucks too for her behavior. However, she got a crap deal here. Parents who hate each other can't be civil and treat each other like crap. Parents who put her in the middle. Parents who don't support her or help her. There's more to support than money. And a parent who completely cut her off and abandoned her. I'm not saying inviting her is the right thing here, but your issues started long before now. This is just one more way you've shown your daughter that she's not really all that important to you. You can argue this all you want, but if she was truly important to you, if you truly loved her, you would have been talking about the therapy you got for her when she was with you and the efforts you made to help her rather than abandoning her and cutting her off because it was too hard. Your analysis is poor. You completely ignored the main culprit: parental alienation. Therapy is not the magical solution to everything. If Sarah turned her kid against her dad at 11 years old by telling her that her father cheated on her and therefore broke up the family, it will have a huge impact on his relationship with the kid. There's no good reason for Sarah to tell her preteen daughter about her relationship woes with her father. It was done out of spite, not the jerk. The mother is responsible for destroying the father-daughter relationship. The father and daughter are dealing with the long-term fallout. X shouldn't have told the daughter the truth. That doesn't remove responsibility from OP. OP didn't do anything to fix the situation. He went no contact on a kid instead. He still paid child support till she was 18. The verbal, emotional, and mental mistreatment is enough to go no contact. And yes, kids can mistreat their parents too. I don't give out Parent of the Year awards for paying child support. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex? Please let us know. I think they should all go on the Jerry Springer show. Oh man, would that be a good episode. Especially when they bring out her new boyfriend who's 3'1". Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.